So, just finished Waybound, last Cradle book by Wight, and it's difficult. I don't really want to talk about kind of the plot too much or really anything that's going on because for anyone watching this who hasn't read any of the other books, everything's going to be a spoiler, and I do want to keep these spoiler free. I'm pretty sensitive to spoilers in general. What a lot of people consider not spoilers, I would say, are spoilers. Saying there's a massive plot twist at the end is a spoiler because then you start to think about what the massive plot twist at the end is. Not that that's true for this book. That's just a general small rant. But the book itself, I just it had so much more potential. So I'm seeing a lot of like criticisms that kind of say, well, the book is really bad, really badly written, like, and that's not true. I mean, Will White is not he's not Dostoevsky. You're not going to kind of see beautiful prose and all those things. That's just not how he writes, and really, that's not why you're reading the book. So, but it's not a badly written book. It's as well written as a Sanderson book or anything like that in terms of the prose and the style. I think, but and in and of itself, it is not a bad book. But the issue is from where the series started and from how he's built everything up to and where all the characters are, there was this huge potential for something brilliant and for this book to just be something very special. And I really don't think he hit that at all. And I think there's a pretty strong argument here for him making this series a lot longer. And I would almost never say that. Very few series I think should be longer. I think even some of the most acclaimed on BookTube fantasy series, Faithful and the Fallen, which people say is very concise. I think there was a lot of fat and padding. I'm a guy who reads 250-page science fiction novels because I think you can make a point, you can make a story in a shorter amount of time. But this book, the way it's structured, he had so much time and so much license to elongate the plot and to bring out. It's difficult to explain this without massive spoilers, but I think from the 10th book, you could have written 4 or 5 other books that fully built out the character arcs and all the other characters that needed more time and to get them to all meet and do something phenomenal in the final series and in the final book in the series. And he's just missed it. He just didn't slam dunk the ball, and it's so annoying because it could have been one of the best series ever made, and he'd done all the hard work. He'd built up all these brilliant characters. Or well, some of the characters are a bit bland, but a couple of them are brilliant, and he could have built these out into something. He spent so much time building these characters and getting us to love them and showing off this world and getting us really invested in the stakes and like making us like really invested in what's going to happen next and setting all these little breadcrumbs and these little trails and these little off mentions of certain characters that you think may or may not be important going forward and all these little references and all of this and a little bit flat. And I still think it's a very good series. I still think it's worth my time. I will be reading it again, but it could have been maybe my favourite series of all time, and now it'll probably be a top, I don't know, 20 maybe, and it's probably the last 2 books, the only reasons that I feel like that. And again, I'm not trying to make it. I'm not trying to slam on these too much. They are good books, and if they were kind of the start of the series, I'd be like, oh, this has got potential. These are good. These are like interesting and engaging and funny, and but there'll be 4-star books, I think, and it could have been something special. I don't know. I've seen people complain, for instance, that the book has, is action scene to action scene, and that's sort of disappointing. But I think that's maybe slightly naive. It's a 12-book series. Obviously, the 12th book is probably going to be pretty action packed, and it is. I don't think that's a fair criticism. Maybe you're watching this book and you're this review and you're thinking about starting the series and you're thinking, well, if the ending is weak, would it be worth starting? I don't think this is in any way a bad book or in any way enough to kind of diminish or to say the series isn't worth it at all. But I would say you might just feel like you it's a bit like you go to a restaurant and someone's saying we're gonna have filet mignon, we're gonna have there's the potential there for Kobe beef, filet mignon, triple cooked chips, and then you get there and you end up being served a very nice burger, and you just kind of think, this could have been so much more. That's how I feel. But I love a burger. It's not like you've had a bad meal, but it's just not quite. It's not quite what it could have been.